Okay, you guys ready? Let's go. We'll call the Board of County Commissioners meeting for February 7th, 2023 to order. Beth, roll call, please.
Barry?
Here.
Steve?
Here.
Bo is absent. David?
Here. We have a quorum. We'll proceed if everybody please stand up for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, should have time, everybody, to review the consent agenda. What are the wishes?
Motion to approve is presented, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Moved and second. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Barry?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Corey?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Motion carried. Unfinished business, we have one on here. It's the America the Beautiful Resolution Committee. I believe, Commissioner Ramberg, that this is not going to happen today. I think we'll just direct Beth to take it off the agenda until we hear from everybody and be able to get it taken care of if that works for everyone.
Works for me.
Okay. Mr. Shoup, would you like to come up? Please introduce yourself for the record.
Dan Shoup, live in the bottom coordinate there. Who I am, I own Shoup's Drywall and Remodeling. Been here for a bunch of years. As a matter of fact, I've been here so long, I remember delivering papers to your house. I know you played second base, and I know you were a center on the basketball team. And I've seen you on the ballot many a year, and I voted for you. Okay, so that's who I am. Over the years, and that's why it's important that I know that you all live here. And I can say safely, the city's in the best hands that I've ever seen it in. But last year, we ran into a situation. My kids all moved away because Williston did not have opportunities for them back when they were in high school. Luckily enough, you guys survived. The part that I'm upset about is that the vector control. We were talking about that last year. And what happened is that whenever my kids try to come home, they meet what they met whenever they were in high school, just like you lived it. And the mosquitoes were so bad, they couldn't be out in the yard. They couldn't do anything. The explanations. One, we had missed an opportunity to get the airplanes from Minot because paperwork wasn't turned in. We also had a lot of money sitting in a bank account and nothing was being done. So the point that I'm getting to this year, I'm watching. I want to know what we're doing and when we're doing it, because last year I got in on the tail end whenever you didn't have the opportunity to fight back. Right now, the mosquito problem is well under control. And we do not have a problem with mosquitoes right now, but my kids won't come in July or February and January to come and visit. And actually, these are kids that this community would do well to get back in this town. But they won't come and see us during the times whenever we have snow and mosquitoes. And what I would like to do is I would like to hear a little bit of something about what's been done about the vector control on the issue of the contract with Minot Air Force Base or whatever it is. And I'd like to know what the plan is for early eradication of the mosquito problem. So I leave that with you.
Okay, I appreciate that. Commissioner Kemp, that's kind of your realm. You be able to help him out a little bit?
Absolutely. The number one, the contract per se is between the Corps of Engineers and the U.S. Air Force spray wing, which is based out of Youngstown Air Force Base. They fly up and do these training missions, and we initiated this back in 2009. The Air Force put out a notice that we're looking for large acreage public land to practice larviciding, and we enticed them to come here. And Lieutenant Colonel at the time, Mark Breidenbaugh, who is now private citizen, came out and he had been all over the world, well respected in the industry, and he said Williston has the worst mosquitoes he's seen in the entire world. And anyway, so he was excited to come and try to help with the solution, because he said the problem we have here is so prevalent. If we had any kind of population base, this wouldn't be a problem, because we'd have enough pressure on the federal government to deal with getting funding to help spray that thing. The bottomlands, which are just straight south of Williston, we're right next door, which you're very familiar with. All that to say, we did go out to the public and ask for the extra money. The public overwhelmingly voted to support that, and we had a money problem, not a mosquito problem, so we started getting more money in the bank. All that to say, coming up to our discussion last year, the Air Force, while it is incredibly valuable, it has a profound impact on people's mindset, seeing that giant C-130 flying through the bottoms at 250 feet above the ground at 200 miles an hour. It's impressive looking. It's not a great platform to spray with unless you're carpet bombing. Think about any large aircraft. B-52, not real maneuverable, but will drop a lot of bombs over a wide area. And hopefully you hit a target or several in that carpet bombing experience. That's what the C-130 does for us. It flies down low, drops a lot of products over a wide path, but it's not always able to hit everything that we want it to hit. So it's a great tool, and it doesn't cost us anything from an operational perspective. The only thing that Vector Control pays for is the product that goes in the plane. So why am I saying all this? We have better, more precision bombing, if you will, with a private contractor. We can hit the target areas when they're producing mosquitoes or larvae at the precise time in the precise location. But we still need the weather to cooperate. And as we all know, in the spring, when these things come out, it's about that end of May, beginning of June when this is an issue. And that's when you got to hit them, because if you don't, then they start coming out, and they come out ideally perfectly timed at the 4th of July, which is, I'm sure, when my classmate, your son, Carl, and his family want to be home. And every year, that's the golden goose that we try to make sure that we at least have a good 4th of July. And there's so many variables that come to play with regards to handling that problem at that time. I think you'd agree, Dan, that before and after, it was pretty good. And we did miss the 4th. I sat outside, I had my hoodie on with it tied shut, and I had gloves on. I mean, watching the fireworks, it was miserable to be outside. I agree. But just know that there's a lot of variables that are at play. And it's not necessarily even a money problem for us anymore. It's just weather, timing. Getting the Air Force here is important, I agree. But again, it's more our private contractors spraying and getting out there when they can. And I think that's, I hope I covered a lot of ground there, but
Right.
that's kind of in a nutshell. And believe me, we all live here, and as you do, and we want them to be able to knock them down.
Who was a private contractor when you were 12?
I have no idea.
Marburger?
Well, it probably was. It's still the same
Oh.
person. Marburger's still doing it.
And what I'm trying to say is we're getting the same results now, even though it's targeting. The part still is that whenever Fran was doing the carpet bombing, as we're saying, and I realize how imperfect it was because I looked into that too. But the results could not be refuted. Those years that he was doing it, the results were the mosquito problem was almost eradicated.
Right, and as you and I discussed, there's a lot of variables that go at play. We didn't have flooding for a number of years.
And I understand all these
So-
variables, but this is Williston, and we're a 40-year period. You and I both know that you have ups and downs, and yes, that's true. But then also, over the period that he was running it, the situation was pretty much eradicated, and everybody was willing to pay a lot more to get rid of mosquitoes to keep that type of performance. Now, what I'm asking for is, are we going to go, anywhere close to what we were doing whenever he was there? And that's the part of my question is where are we at in the future?
Yeah, if you're focused on the Air Force, that's been handled, and so they are coming.
Okay.
Again, this is a big challenge, and this is important for everybody to know. When we request the Air Force to come, we schedule it about now. So flooding or not flooding, we get them or don't get them, and I'm talking about the mosquito larvae, that is. So if there's no flooding, there's no larvae, and we've scheduled them 6 months in advance and hoping that this is when they're going to come out. So there's a lot of challenges with that. If you're going to focus any attention on anything, we want to have the private contractor spraying when they're out and when they're there to kill. The Air Force is awesome. I love having the Air Force here. They're fantastic. But we have to schedule them so far in advance that it's really tough to guess when we're going to have our spring rise.
Your anticipated date?
Absolutely, and it's pretty consistent. It's almost always the end of May, 25th, somewhere between the 25th of May and the 10th of June, that we're going to have that rise come up, and about 2 weeks later, you have a boatload of larvae out there.
So the 1st of May is a good time to call to find out if this is happening?
Certainly, yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Steve, just to comment, how often does the Vector Board meet?
Monthly.
Would it be beneficial, I guess, maybe, because I'm assuming those meetings are open to the public, that Mr. Shoup be able to attend those meetings so that he can get more knowledge on
Yes.
what's going on? And just one more thing with the Air Force, we all know that, they can come, but the weather, the day that they come affects whether or not they're going to be here also.
True. I mean, I'm not looking, but the performance that Fran did with the same situations was a lot better than it was last year.
Yep.
True.
No, absolutely.
If somebody could get you, maybe we'll just try to get you the date of the next
answer is
vector.
that I know this guy.
Yeah.
Okay, well, and that's probably a lot better place to
There's
go.
a chance to touch base with him and let him know when people are coming into town.
Yeah, and I think it'd be good for you to meet the director, and I think you'll gain some confidence
Oh,
in meeting.
Now, the same thing is I've known millionaires, I know Offutt, I know Shealy, I knew all these guys. So, and the other part is I have degrees, and also I've met many people that have 3 or 4 PhDs. And the other part is that it's performance. You performed, and that's why you're here. But the part is that if you don't do your job and you miss a point or you miss an opportunity, you're talking about a failure. And what I'm doing is basically trying to analyze the failure, not the success. And if we can avoid the failures, then people will come back and look at the city in a little bit different light. But like you say, whenever you're out in the middle of winter, bundled up, they're going to think you're freezing. And if you're also bundled up in the middle of July, they're going to think that mosquitoes are your state bird. So that's what and don't laugh, that's what we thought back in 1970.
The first 2 years I was on the Vector Control Board was 2008 and 2009. They were 2 of the worst years we've ever had in history. And it was 3 o'clock in the afternoon. We were getting bodily harm threats, and we had a
Sure.
voicemail, a phone line for people to call and just complain because that's all you could do. We had
Yeah.
$250,000 budget, and you just couldn't do anything. And so, yeah, I'm well
The
aware.
term is relative deprivation. If people have TV sets, they'll miss TV whenever they don't have it. What you did is you gave a performance that was pretty much, I thought, pristine. And the people expect that. I do. I expect that of you. If I know you can do this, that's my expectations.
Mhm.
And the same thing is whenever the tall guy on the basketball team gets the ball in the lane, I expect him to score. And that's all I'm
Unfortunately, you
saying.
probably saw me miss a lot of those shots.
Well, we're young. But okay, that's all I'm saying. I will get a hold of you on the 1st of May, and just find out what's going on. I'll try to do it during office hours and not at 3 in the morning.
It's fine. Anytime you want to call, Dan, I'll answer the phone.
Okay,
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it. That's gonna bring us to, looks like Lindsay, you're up.
Good morning. All right, so today for you, I am presenting a draft request for proposal for a concept to complete a quality of life strategic study. As we know, there are a lot of different projects that are coming in across the county as a whole, not just in Williston. And this would be a good opportunity for the county to work towards a collaborative effort to understand the concept of those projects, but also their feasibility and success and operational planning for how they would fit into our community as a whole. These types of studies, well, first I had to go make sure this was a thing. The more that some of us had talked about what this would contain, there's a lot of like master planning, like we did the master plan for the parks, for our parks here, and there are, vision things. But this is a little bit more tangible in the fact that we already know what we want, but we want to figure out what we can support and how these things can all work together, even down to nuances like staffing plans. So this study, as it's drafted, would have 5 main components: an inventory of what we have, a market demand and feasibility analysis. We would look at operational, financial, and staffing plans. It could even look at specific facility design elements. So in what we're looking to build or what a project is looking to build, ensuring it meets the expectations of the community and the types of events it might want to hold. And then overall strategic community planning. How do these things fit together? How do they fit together in the future? Things like that. So putting forth for your consideration, we would want to try to get it started late spring, early summer. This is not, it says it here, can't enforce this enough. It's not, the intention would not be one long study where we get a bunch of results at the end. This would be an iterative process. We want results now. The projects would be looking for results now. This would be an active study, an active participation, engaging with stakeholders, and getting those answers and results as we go. So again, for your consideration, this is a draft. More than happy to make changes or whatever your wishes are. Question?
Does anybody got any questions for Lindsay?
do you have someone in mind that's gonna do this study?
I have talked to 2 different companies, again, in the respect of making sure this was a thing, and that companies went out and did these types of studies, especially the market demand and feasibility. And so one is based in Minneapolis and Frisco, Texas. They have 2 different locations. The other one is based in Florida. We'd also, anyone that might be interested, we could send it to. And then both of those companies, happenstance, have experience in both the Montana and North Dakota areas. In South Dakota, between the 3, I found that out after I had talked to them. And so they are these kind of comprehensive companies that kind of put things together how you want them.
So how are you gonna choose who's gonna do it?
Well, so the request for proposal would go out. We could invite those 2. We could put it out for other companies that might be interested. And then they would submit back what their proposals would be. And kind of looking at some flexibility. One of the notes that we have on the cost part of it is known to the variable nature of this. We might have a lot of projects, we might have a little, depending at what stage, we'd be looking at a range of costs. And then then the proposals would come back to you as the commission to evaluate if you want to do questions, you want to go beyond that, and then you'd make the ultimate selection.
Perfect.
I was gonna say, I think it said right on there, it's not Lindsay's call, it's ours.
Just seeing if she was awake this morning.
She
You,
got,
A little bit.
you feel confident, Stan, I'm just playing devil's advocate here because I've always been critical of studies. Because most of the time they come back and they don't really tell us anything that we don't already know, other than the parks. And I attribute that study to the fact is that the gal was from Tioga and was very knowledgeable on our area and knows what's going on. So I hope we feel confident that this is gonna be the same thing.
Typically, I don't like studies either. I had to kind of, are you really actually suggesting this? The 2 things to me that stick out as the most important, both in looking into this and talking with some of the projects is one, the market demand aspect of it. I talked a little bit with Amy Kruger from the CVB, and the city really even hasn't done anything like this for 10 years. 10 years ago, they did a destination development plan. And routinely, the CVB looks at like hotel occupancy and things like that. But the market demand and feasibility analysis would give a good picture of where are people coming from, who is here, and balancing that with the day-to-day amenities as well as tourism, and giving us a look to data we don't have access to on a daily basis, and they can pull that together for us. And then the operational and staffing plans. Even for theoretical facilities, they would be able to give us a look at how many people need to operate this facility and how many people do we need to hire. And by putting all the pieces together from a strategic planning standpoint, a lot of these facilities may have competing staff, and this would help us navigate, not just us, but the collective we of the stakeholders involved, of how we can balance that with our workforce needs and how this would need to be staffed across all these facilities to be sustainable in operations. So those would be some of the tangible answers that perhaps the study would be, well, the study should be able to give us. I'm not going to say perhaps, but or we'd be expecting to get out of it.
Well, I just, to add my 2 cents, I think it would be a wise decision just because of the number of phone calls that I've been getting on these grants. And it's, I mean, we've talked to a lot of different people, and there's a lot of stuff. I mean, I got one from Ray on Friday, which is the gymnastics up in Ray. I think this is going to hopefully tie everything together, give us a little more direction on, and hopefully be able to help some of these groups out. So I would be all for it. Anybody else have any other questions or anything to add?
Just one of the larger contributors to one of these projects talked to me, and I mentioned the idea that Lindsay had, and he thought it was a really good idea. So, so I think there is some support out there from the people looking to do these projects too. So, yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the distribution of Williams County Quality of Life Strategic Study RFP.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion, second by Commissioner Montgomery.
So much
Any discussion? This year's better than that year. I can tell you that honestly. No discussion? Roll call, please.
Steve,
Yes.
Corey,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Barry,
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Lindsay. Dennis?
Okay, it's that time of year again to advertise for bids for our budgeted projects, and along with our generic gravel, equipment, culverts, and all that, just need authorization to advertise quite soon. Next week, I hope.
Okay, any questions for Dennis? Can we get a motion?
Make a motion to authorize the county highway to advertise for bids.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved to second. Any discussion? Roll call, Beth.
Corey,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Barry,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Motion carried.
That's it.
That's it. Thanks, Dennis. Any department heads that I missed that need anything? No? All right, Helen.
Good morning.
Morning.
We have 2 open positions in the sheriff's office that we'd like your permission to fill. One is a records clerk and one is a corrections officer.
Move to approve the positions as presented.
Is there a second? Second. Moved to second. Any discussion? Roll call.
David,
Yes.
Barry,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Corey,
Yes. Motion carried. We gotta get done.
Thank you.
That's it from Helen. Here, nothing else on the agenda. We will adjourn the meeting.